Welcome back to the home front. I'm your host, Reed Galen. Today, I'm coming to you solo as we hit the 3-week mark between now and Election Day. And guys, I've been doing this a long time, as you all know. Most of my adult life, even most of my childhood, was involved in politics. And someone texted me the other day and said, "What does your crystal ball tell you?" And I wrote back, "Cloudy with a chance of tyranny." Guys, I'd like to be able to tell you I know what's going to happen. I'd like to tell you that I even have an idea of what's going to happen electorally. I think that, as we've talked about before, I think if I were strictly talking numbers, I feel good about Vice President Harris because there are more voters available to her. She has a broader coalition, a deeper coalition in more places, in more states. Donald Trump's coalition is smaller, angrier, more male, and more extreme than it was 4 years ago or certainly 8 years ago. And it's 90% white, right? If white people don't turn out for him, he's in trouble. The problem is that we're up against a guy named Donald Trump. As I've said before, he was born with a horseshoe up his rear end. The one thing that we can count on is that Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and the entire MAGA ecosystem is and will cause more trouble in the next 3 weeks. In just the past few days, we've seen Donald Trump's rhetoric amp up on everything from immigrants to states that don't vote for him not receiving federal aid if he is reelected, using the military to take on his political opponents. J.D. Vance lied to a New York Times reporter 5 straight times after she asked him, and I thought she was brilliant doing this, about whether or not Donald Trump won or lost the 2020 election. And he said that it was because of the Hunter Biden laptop story not getting enough attention from social media that, quote unquote, cost Donald Trump millions of votes. It did not. It did not do that. Donald Trump lost 2020 fair and square. And so now, guys, what I need you to do is go out to any friends you have, including yourself, if you're, quote, undecided, or Republican friends who are unsure about Trump, right? If you believe that Trump is okay, there's not a lot I can do for you. If you think that the difference between Trump and Kamala Harris is so negligible as that it doesn't matter who wins, that's an indictment of our overall political system. But I'll tell you this, guys, that there is no comparison between what will happen to this country if Donald Trump wins versus what happens if Kamala Harris wins. You don't have to agree with the vice president. You have to agree with Governor Walz. But what I hope you can agree on with me is that when she wakes up in the morning and when he wakes up in the morning, they say, what can I do on behalf of the American people today? What can I do to lead the American people today? What can I do to keep the people of the United States safe? Donald Trump will wake up every morning, as he does every morning for the last nearly 80 years, and said, what's good for me? What am I going to do that benefits me today? What do I have to do to get out of the trouble I've gotten myself into for the last 50 years? And I think it's important to understand Trump's motivation. This is not a guy with a particular ideological bent other than fascism, I guess, and it's really hyper-personal fascism on his part. I think J.D. Vance is a lot more ideological. I think he really believes the stuff that comes out of his mouth. Trump says what he thinks he needs to say. But he is now like a cornered raccoon, right? He's scared. He's worried. He knows that if he loses on November 5th, that all of the transgressions of his life are now converging on a single point, whether or not that's political, legal, financial, anything else. He knows he's in trouble. And so that means, guys, over the next 3 weeks, it's going to get worse. And I want you all to prepare yourselves to the extent possible. It will get worse. His behavior will get worse. His words will get worse. We will start to see, as we're seeing now in North Carolina, armed men threatening relief workers from FEMA in North Carolina because of a flood of misinformation and disinformation that we have not yet in this country understood how to counter and push back on. And I think that's a 2025 project. But I'll say this, guys, is that If you can volunteer in a state that's going to decide the presidency, get out there and do it. If you live someplace else, go to jointheunion.us and do everything you can to make phone calls, send text messages, send postcards, whatever the case might be, guys. This is it. 3 weeks. Millions of Americans are already voting. The more voters that we get to check the box for Kamala Harris and competent, confident Democrats around the country, the better off we're all going to be. Now, look, guys, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not going to be a Democrat. But we only have one pro-democracy party left. And that's not to say that the Democratic Party is without fault. It's got plenty. But that's not the issue right now. The issue is our choice is America or Trump. Trump is telling us what he's promising to do. Trump is going to do those things. The people around him will do those things. And just think about this, guys. It's not just going to be Trump with his personal vendettas. It's going to be every single person around him who has ever felt aggrieved or upset or belittled or ridiculed by people on social media or in the press, whoever it is. It's going to be years worth of retribution against anybody they just simply don't like. Now, you might think that politics will ignore you, but it never does. And you could think, oh, I'll be fine. And you might be. But do you want to take that chance? Do you want to take the chance that there's one addled old man sitting in the White House with a bunch of ideological freaks, ne'er-do-wells, rogues, has-beens, never-gonna-be's, making decisions that are going to affect your life and your family's life, and frankly, the life of the United States? I don't think you want that. And so what I would say this, and I'll keep it short today because I know everybody's busy, is that if you can't get involved for a various reason, at least do the very simple thing of voting. If you can get involved, do all you can to ensure that your friends and your family, if they're not registered, get them registered. If they are registered, make sure they have a plan to vote. If you can, get out and knock on doors, as I have for several weeks. Get out there and be part of the solution, guys. We can win this. We should win this. We will win this. But it will take all of us. And I, for one, am not going to be somebody who wakes up on November 6th, win, lose, or otherwise, and say, I didn't do everything I could, right? I'm going to do it all. I'm going to leave it all on the field. I'll get sleep in November. I'll get sleep in December. But for now, guys, no sleep till Election Day, no rest till Election Day. Drink your coffee, right? Drink your Red Bull, drink your Mountain Dew, whatever it is you got to do. Eat your power bars. But guys, we got a short amount of time here. Every moment of every day counts. Get out there and do your part. Let's get those votes out. Let's make sure that Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz are elected, and that Donald Trump is the beginning of the end of MAGA. As always, gang, thank you so much for listening to this. I hope you will share this episode and this show with your friends. Please rate 5 stars. Guys, these ratings really do matter. They keep us in the rankings. They make sure that more people are hearing this message and on this journey together. Go to my Substack, also called The Homefront. Sign up there. New YouTube page that you can find as well. Also on social media, Twitter and TikTok at Reed Galen, Threads and Instagram at Reed_Galen USA. And as always, go to jointheunion.us. Get involved in our Action Center. If you can't get involved personally, I hope you'll consider donating a few bucks. Otherwise, guys, we'll see you in a couple of days. Keep up the fight, and thanks for listening.